I'm now going to welcome Arlene Crockett from the Life Changes Trust, who is going to talk about the Trust's small grant programme and also a little bit about the next steps following today's events. She's also going to be talking to Kate Robertson from the Outside the Box, who were recipients of the Life Changes Trust small grant in Tayside. So Arlene, I'm going to take my leave. I'm going to thank you all for having me today and hand you over. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Heather, and a warm welcome to you, Kate, from Outside the Box for joining us today. So, Kate, before we have a wee bit of a chat, I'd like to bring people up to speed about our Creating Better Lives regional grants programme and more specifically about what we've been doing in Tayside. So prior to the pandemic and after each of our learning events, which we held face-to-face pre-COVID-19, we opened a small grants programme for the relevant NHS region. Local organisations were then asked to apply to deliver work which would support people living with dementia and unpaid carers in their own community, so very much a focus on local. We offered grants of between £2,000 and £15,000, which could last for up to 18 months for the given project. Once applications are submitted, and to ensure that a local approach is maintained throughout the whole process, including the decision-making element, we established a panel of local people for each round of the regional grants to decide which applications would then be funded. The panels are typically made up of people who live and work in the area, including people with experience and expertise in dementia, and more importantly, where possible, we also included people living with dementia and also unpaid carers. The Life Changes Trust funding staff are always on offer for the panels for advice and guidance, but panel members themselves have the final decision to which applications are successful or otherwise. A local organisation or individual is then commissioned to support collaborative working and encourage shared learning between projects that have been awarded. So we appoint a learning network coordinator, big long title, but that's what we do. By providing those small grants directly to local groups, we want to strengthen the relationships between people and their own community. It's very important for people to access to the knowledge, support and expertise, advice of larger organisations, but sometimes local community groups can make the biggest difference in people's lives. So, in the summer of 2020, we accelerated our small grants programme in light of COVID-19 and opened it to 4 of the 9 health board areas that we were left to launch: Edinburgh Lothians, Borders, Fife and Tayside. We now have Lanarkshire and Forth Valley now open, with the remaining 3 opening in the next 3 months, and that will bring us up to speed of 14 health board areas. So I'm delighted to say that Tayside, the panel there approved 5 grants with a total of just under £58,000 awarded, so 57,824 to be exact, all awarded locally. And we've also recently appointed Graham Galloway, who you've seen earlier on the webinar, from Kerry Connections as the Learning Network Coordinator for Tayside. Details of the awardees are on our website, and I am delighted to have Kate Robertson here now. So enough from me, Kate. Kate's going to talk about the project that benefits from the Small Grants Programme, and she represents one of those awardees. So Kate, firstly, can you tell us a wee bit about Outside the Box and what it offers to people in the community?
Absolutely. Firstly, I'd just like to say hello to everyone and thank you for everyone's contribution so far. It's been incredibly thought-provoking and very enjoyable. So I'm part of Outside the Box, and we started in 2004. We're a small independent charity and we aim to work as a social enterprise. We develop and provide support to people and communities across Scotland who want to make a difference in their own community. We can offer practical support and enable people to learn the type of skills that are important for establishing new ventures and for sustaining them and keeping them going for the long term. We assist people to contribute to issues that are about how their own communities work or how wider society works. A couple of examples is that we can support people to share skills and experiences. We work alongside people to develop community-based solutions to the issues and challenges that they are experiencing, and also have their voices heard within a kind of policy area as well. Over the years, we have learned so much about the issues that affect hundreds of people and hundreds of groups that we have worked alongside. And we combine this learning with our knowledge about how different types of community development support works for different communities and in completely different contexts. As a team and as an organisation, we really value the contributions and the knowledge and the experiences of the people we work alongside. And personally, we're really committed to continue our learning from them. This learning we share in a wider field. We develop project resources that then we can share through other projects across Scotland and beyond. So the work that we do with local groups supports the local community and wider society. For many years now, we have been working alongside people who are living with dementia and unpaid carers. And some of our work with Agnes Houston on sensory challenges with dementia, our Food Buddies project, and more recently our Digital Buddies project, which really came to life in the past year with COVID.
I never hit my unmute, I'm unmuted now. So thanks, Kate. A wealth of stuff going on there outside the box, and we know at the Trust how much that has had an impact on the lives of people with dementia and unpaid carers. So good to see you benefiting from one of our Regional Grants Programme awards. So moving on to that, can you tell us a bit about the new project developed as a result of the funding called Linking Local Dementia-Friendly Connections, and how this is going?
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to hear the priorities that were outlined today, and a lot of what we've been hearing today, I will take back to the project and reflect on, and we're constantly adapting and learning. But the overall aim of the project is to strengthen community-based social connections, and we'll work alongside people who are affected dementia in Highlands and North East Perthshire. So that'll be in and around communities like Aberfeldy, Dunkeld, over towards Blairgowrie area. The project was developed in response to what we were hearing from individuals and community groups about social connections and really important human rights-based themes like choice, availability, accessibility, respect and independence. Of course, the past year, COVID has had a huge impact on everyone's social connections, but even more so for people who are living with dementia and unpaid carers. And since we developed the project last year, it feels like everything has changed and nothing has changed all at the same time. The project just started last month, and we're already adapting our approach and our plans to take account of the impact of the last lockdown. And going forward, we know that we will need to remain flexible and adapt the project as we all collectively move out of lockdown and work our way through different tiers. So going forward, we imagine in the short term, at the very least, we'll be taking a blended approach and striking a safe balance between meaningful connections digitally and hopefully at some point in person. And that'll be to deliver 4 strands of our Linking Local project. So collectively, we'll work together to strengthen social connections through events and gatherings that bring more people together. Again, that will be a sort of blended approach, hopefully. We'll be developing project resources and publicity to raise awareness and encourage people to think about different types of social connections, how to make these accessible and how to reach people in and around their communities. It's really important for us that we do this collaboratively and in partnership with people who are living with dementia and unpaid carers, and work alongside local venues and activity providers to support them to become more confident in what they're delivering in a dementia-friendly way. Lastly, throughout all of that activity, we're really going to want to work to connect individuals and groups and communities. So as the project develops, people have different types of relationships, more friendships, and stronger connections with their communities, because we have become a wee bit more disconnected over the past year. Our hope is that people will have time and opportunities to try out some new things. as well as doing the things that they absolutely love and that keeps them well and healthy. Having a buddy to attend a local theatre show, going for a walk in the park, meeting somebody for a cuppa and a bit of cake in a local cafe, and short-term memories, whatever that blended or digital approach might be. To get the project started, we've been able to secure a small number of iPads and MiFi devices through Connecting Scotland. So we'll be supporting people to connect digitally in the first instance, and we've actually built up quite a lot of easy accessible resources through our Digital Buddies project that we can draw on and use. So really, I'm kind of asking anyone here today, if you're interested or you think you might know a friend, neighbour or relative that might be interested in the Lincoln local project or the digital packs, please get in touch with us. We would love to have a conversation with you and love to learn from you. And thank you for everyone's contributions today.
Thanks, Kate, and great to have a call to action at the end of our presentation. It's always really important because you've got a captive audience. And I think you're right. I think it's been really important for communities and projects within them to really be able to adapt and flex to that change, because there's been many highs and lows through this pandemic, as we know, and the real impact on beneficiaries as a result. And I think probably, you know, the uniqueness or the beauty of what you've got is that you're a new project, so you can respond to what that looks like, and you can take into account what worked before, but also what has worked during the pandemic, and then the response thereafter. Because as some of the commentary through the webinar this morning has said, you know, the digital stuff is really good and it works really well, but there are still people that are not able to or don't want to access it, support in that way. So the blended approach and being responsive to that is really helpful. So yeah, and really, as you say, just with that really strong human rights value base at the heart around, you know, that independence, choice, respect, and I think that flows through everything that we see at the Trust, and very much has flowed through a lot of what we've heard about this morning from our contributors. So thank you so much, Kate. Just a quick addition around the small grants programme to say that the Trust has also commissioned an independent evaluation of the small grants programme that's been undertaken at the moment by Blake Stevenson. And the report for that is due out towards the end of this year, in and around November 2021. So many thanks to Kate for joining us and sharing some of that work. So before I introduce the final part of the programme and hand over to our wonderful co-chairs, I'd like to just say a few words about the importance of this event and the learning going forward. There's been a lot shared today about what's going on locally in terms of project learning, and more critically, what people say are their priorities for dementia now and also for the future. As I've mentioned a few times today, or not me, but my colleagues, we still have a bit more to do with local partners to try and engage people with dementia in some of those storytelling sessions that Shona has mentioned earlier today. And we will update the priorities to reflect this. A call to action has been made by Shona and several of my colleagues, and also in the chat. So if you're interested in passing on the information about the sessions when we get them organised, then leave your contact details in the chat and we will contact you directly when they've been confirmed. These sessions are for people with dementia, but as I've also said in the chat, if people need a supporter or a friend, whatever, to be with them, that's absolutely fine too. But it's critical that we try and get sessions taken forward both online and by telephone. A more detailed report will then come afterwards. So what we ask the centre to do at Village Stories is produce a more detailed and robust report that reflects all of the sessions. We'll include those priorities that you've heard earlier today. We'll include a whole plethora of quotes and stories from people that took part, and that will be a good way to start those influence and conversations as well. Because what we need to do is we need to plan together. This needs to be a collective approach going forward. So we will make sure that everybody on the call today receives that, as well as sharing it publicly on our website. I know, having heard from many people on our panel today, that Health and Social Care Partnerships and IJBs are working on their own plans, but it's really good to hear that there's an appetite for some kind of collective action in relation to dementia strategy work across Tayside. And good to hear that some of those building blocks are already in place in relation to the mental health strategy that both Alison and Emma Jane mentioned earlier. Sorry. And this is critical because this is not the end of the conversation, this is the start of new conversations. And just to say that at the Trust, we are more than happy to support and facilitate further discussion in that regard, because we've already done some of that work in other regional areas that we've had events, including Orkney, Aberdeenshire, and more recently, there's now work underway in Fife as a result of their regional events. So please, talk to us at the Trust, make contact, and we'll definitely be able to speak a bit more about that and the impact that that has had in other areas. But I encourage you all today, a call to action from me, if I may, to take the learning that's relevant to you from today's webinar and really make that change happen, whether it's individually in your community, as part of a group, or as part of a bigger organisation. Today isn't the end of the conversation, but the beginning of new ones, with collaboration of focus. And I'm going to end just with something that George said. You know, we need to listen to what people have said through the storytelling and through the webinar today, and then we need to take some action. So before I hand over to our co-chairs, Robert and George, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to them both for agreeing to take on this role today. They have done an amazing job, I'm sure you all agree. And I know, and I'm sure many on this webinar know, that sharing is not easy at the best of times, but online really brings its own challenges. So real kudos to them for taking that on. The delivery has been seamless of the programme, and being part of the planning event as well has been a real inspiration to us at the Trust, and has been really helpful and informative for us in terms of our own learning. And what it really does is reinforces the importance of having people with dementia and unpaid carers front and centre in all that we do.